and what is that you have to do in the next 5 days. So those are the things that that we'll try and discuss today. And I'll also like to tell you this session is also sponsored by the Bennett University, right? So we'll first discuss with what to expect with respect to CAT, uh, and there are three things that we'll first discuss in terms of overall structure of the CAT, pattern of each section, level of difficulty. Uh, what we obviously understand is we just 5 days before the CAT, and I'm sure that you've taken you've reached a stage in terms of your strength, your weakness, and some of you more or less set in terms of you're ready to handle the test. Some of you are figuring out on some of it in stage where it says, okay, fine, that's still wondering how the CAT will turn out to be. So we'll just quickly handle these things, which we believe that is going to be important. Back in 31st July, when CAT came out with the notification the first time, in the FAQ section, CAT mentioned a few things. One, it said that it will be a total of 100 questions, the duration is 180 minutes. Also, very clearly that time, the CAT put up in the FAQ section back in July that the verbal will have 34 questions, DLR will have 32 questions, and the QLR 34 questions. And the CAT also said there'll be 60 minutes each for each of the section. This was exactly how it was in CAT 2015, right? And then when the CAT came out with a mock paper in 31st October 2016, it had exactly same pattern: 100 question, 3 hours, 34 question in VA, 32 and 34, and then 60 minutes. Also, the order was exactly the same as they have said. The only thing was that there was a disclaimer at that point in time. Actually, if you look at the mocks, that it says the number of questions in each section is only for the mock test. The actual number of questions, including the number of MCQ, non-MCQ type questions, could be different from CAT 2016. And you also would have figured out that we actually gave you three mock tests. The three mock tests, which is different from the pattern that is given in the mock CAT. There is a question which says, was such disclaimer present in last year's mock CAT? GP, do you remember? Was it there last year?
No, the disclaimer was not there last year.
Yeah, the last year there was no such disclaimer. So whatever was the pattern that came in the mock CAT was the exact pattern that came in the actual test. This year is different, and then somewhere in August there were some reports that came. There was this news daily from MP. That's the only one which said categorically said a few things. This is in Hindi. So if I have to say, they said that Patrika, actually the name of the news daily said 100 questions, verbal ability 44, 70% of the questions would be from VRC, in RC would be from reading comprehension. That turns out to be about close to 30 questions, 28 questions DLR, 28 questions in QA, which led to certain speculation whether CAT will stick to the pattern. I checked out IIM Bangalore website to figure out whether anything was mentioned in the website. So what I found in the website in this link, this actually link came out in August of 2016, said that there was 180 minutes, there's no problem. The order of section was also clear: section 1, section 2, section 3, verbal ability RC in section 1, DILR in section 2, QA in section 3. There may not be multiple choice questions. There'll be some non-MCQ questions. Exactly 60 minutes allotted for answering each questions. But what is missing is the number of questions per section. And if you actually look at CAT 2004 and 2008, the papers that were created by IIM Bangalore, you would see a weightage which was more for verbal and less for other sections. And in fact, in 2008, it is actually 44% of the questions were from verbal, 28 from DILR and 28 from QA. At that time there were 90 questions and 40 questions came from verbal. So here we are. If you look at the overall structure of the paper, what we know for sure are a few things. One is 180 minutes in total, 3-hour test. There will be 3 sections, And what we know for sure, at least all the claims that IIM Bangalore has been making in various forums, is that the first section will be verbal, the second will be DLR, the third will be QA. And what is also we know is there will be 60 minutes per section. We also know that there will be MCQ and non-MCQ question. We also know that MCQ will have +3 for right answer and -1 for wrong answer, and non-MCQ is +3 and 0. And there will be online calculator. What we don't know, of course, at least IMB has been acting funny with all the disclaimers, and the FAQ section has been changed, is that we don't know the number of questions that are going to be in each section. We obviously don't know the pattern of each section in terms of the area that will be tested, and we also don't know the number of MCQ and non-MCQ questions. So that's where we are in terms of the overall structure of the paper. And here are a few advices that we have. And GP would like to start off here.
Thanks, Chijo. The first thing I would say here is that to me a 3-section paper is like 3 different tests. Because the time limits are being managed by the invigilator, they tell us when to move on to the next one, and my job is essentially to make sure I do well in each of the sections. And unlike a CAT 14 paper in which you had 3 hours and no sectional time limit, your performance in one section could easily impact the performance in another section. In this kind of a paper, that is a little unlikely. Yes, last year people who spoiled their DILR also went on to spoil their quant, but that can be managed. Okay, and my suggestion always is 3 sections, time limit given, treat it like 3 different papers, or rather 3 innings of a single match. Okay, typically I am one of those who believe that surprises are good for papers. Okay, and surprises are good for candidates, because whenever a paper has surprises, many students tend to give up. A paper which has surprise will unnerve a large number of students, and people who can't handle that surprise would already be out of the race, and anyone who can handle the surprise is usually going to do well in that paper. And most of the time, whenever the pattern changes, a new thing comes in, a new question type is introduced in the paper, you will find the level of difficulty goes down. You can check out CAT 2009, the first time online paper was done. You can check out CAT 2014, when it came over from Prometric to CAT took it over themselves. The IIMs took it over to conduct the paper. You can check out CAT 2015, when IIMA decided to change the pattern and make it 3 sections of 1 hour each and introduce non-MCQs. Every time there is a change in the pattern, you will invariably have an easier paper. And a change in pattern is similar to surprise, both of which make it easier for anyone who can handle uncertainty, much more comfortable with the paper, and with a greater chance of doing well. Okay, yeah, Jijo, over to you.
Yeah, so basically it doesn't matter if it is 44, 28, 28. It doesn't matter if it is 34, 32, 32, 34. It won't even matter if it is 50, 20, 25 and 25. Please, all you have to understand is at the end of the day, whatever is a surprise, whatever be it, it's going to be same for everyone. It's just a question of you handling it and taking, like what GP is saying, is to look at each section individually as one test and make the best out of it. My own personal take, of course, I always maintain this, what is more likely is to have a 44 BRC question. That is more likely according to me. We'll have to wait and see what happens actually, because when you have a 34 questions, there will be 24 RC like last year, and there are 10 questions for the rest. If you look at what there is fewer questions with respect to the core verbal questions. The more number of questions will also allow the CAT to test multiple skill set. Another thing that I think even GP will watch for it. If you look at last year's CAT, you could actually finish on the paper. 60 minutes was more than enough to actually look at all the questions. And you can actually finish. One could actually finish the paper in about 55 minutes. SGP, is that happening?
Yeah, I agree. In fact, when I look at CAT 14 as well as CAT 15, both the years the English section, for anyone who was well prepared, did not deserve 1 hour. It was a 50-minute, maybe a 55-minute paper, in the worst case a 57-minute paper. So most of the students who are well prepared would have definitely had 3 to 5 minutes to spare. Yeah, Jijo.
Yeah, okay. So somebody is saying that my voice is lower.
You need to shout.
I'll try and shout. I don't know whether it helps. Okay. All right. Let me shout. Neela, is that okay? All right. So what I also believe that the change in question won't matter much in terms of QA and DLR. Especially it won't matter in DLR at all. Irrespective of whatever happens, you're going to do about 4 sets, or maybe if you're lucky 5 sets. If you're absolutely lucky 6 sets. But beyond that, if somebody gives you 100 sets as well in those time limit, you're really going to handle only these. So it won't change much with respect to DLR, and not even I believe in QA. If at all there is going to be an impact, impact is going to be VRC, because there'll be more number of questions. If you have more number of questions, actually it is actually a good thing, because you'll have more number of choices. And all that you knew, and one more thing, that one last thing I want to talk about is that you know enough to handle whatever challenge the CAT is going to throw out to you. So keep an open mind. You anyway will come to know exactly what the pattern of paper is in the beginning itself, because the paper will tell you during instruction how many questions you will have. So so it won't really matter whether whatever is the number of questions per section is, right? If we move on with respect to the level of difficulty, this is your CAT convener, Mr. Professor Rajendra Bandi, and he's been giving a few interviews in some websites, and I picked one interview that he had given, and he claimed this year's test will be demanding. That's what he said here. That professor said that they should be ready for a demanding test, which tests their problem solving ability and the raw aptitude. I don't know what he meant by demanding, but at least that's what he said. And if you look at other things that he has said in the interview, let me read each of these. He says CAT aims to ensure that questions in the test do not give any specific advantage to candidates from any specific academic background or for a particular gender. Even questions is carefully reviewed to ensure that it is academics and gender neutral. We want to strengthen and retain the positive changes that made last year towards this. So what IIM Bangalore is essentially saying is that they'll continue more or less what IIM A has started. And what IIM A has done, he has made the QA section a little easier, so that irrespective of whatever is the somebody asking a question, how can questions be gender biased? Probably GP can put light on that. And,
in fact, Jijo, there are quite a few questions in this that I can understand question not giving advantage to a specific academic background. Frankly, I don't know what do they mean by gender bias and gender neutral questions. Secondly, the last line what he said, we want to strengthen and retain the positive changes made last year towards this. Now this is open to interpretation. Was non-MCQ a positive change or not? Was the lower level of difficulty of quant a positive change or not? He said all the right things without giving anything actually.
Right. So if you want to read between what he's saying, is that not giving any specific academic background. What is likely going to happen is that he's going to maintain DLR and QA more or less similar to what it was last year. If at all he wants to make it demanding, he'll probably make some changes with respect to VRC. And the only way to make it demanding is to probably test multiple areas. Okay, that's my take. I don't know how it's
just to add to what you have said, IIMs have always struggled with two things. They want fewer engineers and they want larger number of girls. Fewer engineers they have failed. They have tried it all kinds of papers. Whatever kind of paper they give, unfortunately or fortunately, the biggest segment of population which makes it to IIMs are engineers. They have also tried a lot to see how to make the paper somewhat gender neutral, but again they have failed. But there is a feeling among the IIM that since a larger proportion of girls are there in the social science arena, if you make English more difficult or make it more biased toward language or English, there's a chance that you will get a greater gender diversity. And hence the way I would look at this gender neutral kind of a thing is, they will try to balance they will make the quant easier with an assumption that there will be a larger number of girls in the social science and arts or in humanities area, hence they will be able to tackle the quant, and they will make English difficult, marginally difficult, or increase the number of questions so that the engineers struggle and people who have a social science and humanities background, they are able to do well. Now that is possibly the thinking behind what they are doing, but at the end of the day, since 1990, I have been following almost all CAT papers closely. Nothing has worked from their point of view, but they'll still keep trying. Yeah,
Yeah,
Jijo.
so yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, whoever's got great aptitude, irrespective of gender or academic background, is going to do well in whichever test that IIM Bangalore is going to give you. So really, you don't have to worry. And the more thing that we said is, IIMs look for candidates with good competencies in all abilities. You will need to do in all the 3 sections. So that's what he said. And again, he is even in the interview, he has mainly said verbal ability, section 1, section 2 DA, LR, and section 3 QA. So let's not read too much into this. The one way of probably looking at in terms of what impact is going to have a level of difficulty is to probably look at what happened in CAT 2015. If in CAT 2015, this is the percentile distribution, verbal, DLR, and QA. And if you look at verbal, 80 percentile was 46 marks, and 99.99 percentile was about 90 marks. And in DLR, it went from 28 to 72, and QA it went from 30 and 82. A good sense in terms of how difficult or easy the paper is look at one particular percentage, slightly lower. The guys, each section there'll be some guy who will be doing really well. If you look at 85 percentile, which is more or less the cutoff for most of the IIM, you will normally see a verbal about 50, DLR is 30, and QA is 35. This is what we assume more or less is going to be the same. QLR more or less is going to be the same. If at all, if a difficult level is slightly increases, then the cutoff will reduce. So and what you need to look at is these are the numbers that you want to look at, and there is a bare minimum in terms of if you want to head the top schools, and if you want, and at the end of the day, if you want to get, if the paper is as easy as what it was last year, then you want to look at about 110 when you start getting calls for the top 40 schools in this country, and you want to look at close to about 200 to get the very high percentile of the test. Anything you want to add in GP here?
No, not really. I think we can move on.
Okay. And our take in terms of difficult level, I think GP can start first. Huh?
Yeah. Thanks, Jijo. Frankly, as I said earlier, to me the degree of difficulty is immaterial. It does not matter because it's the same level of difficulty, the same paper, the same stupid question which all of us will get. So it's the same level of difficulty. It does not matter at all. Okay. Secondly, I believe that by and large quant and DILR will by and large be similar to what happened last year. English could go up slightly, but by and large, as I said, degree of difficulty is not relevant because everyone gets the same paper. On the contrary, I have always been in favor of slightly difficult papers because in a difficult paper, you don't need to rush through the paper. When you're doing an easy paper, you can feel it is easy and you start rushing through the paper, you end up making mistakes. In a difficult paper, you tend to slow down and your errors come down. And in a difficult paper, you can get a high score at a very high percentile at a low score also. Jijo, could you just go back to the previous slide?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Just look at the DILR. DILR, 95 percentile at 43 marks because it was a difficult section. So in a difficult section, lower attempts work very well. Lower attempts means you can do it at your pace. You don't need to rush through it. Okay. So while the same 95 percentile number for verbal and quant is much higher. Okay. So difficult papers, don't be afraid. All that means is you need to be measured in your attempts and you need to just focus on doing what you are good at and forget about this paper. Yeah, Jijo.
Yeah, one more thing I want to talk about in terms of what happens is we expect something, uh, and 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 something happens which is beyond our expectation. It can be very easy, easier paper or a difficult paper. How you handle this is going to be crucial. First thing that you must always understand, it doesn't matter because everybody is facing the same issue, same problem. Don't try and change anything too much. All that I will do is solve the question that you know, and your marks is going to come from the question that you know. Nothing else you can do about it. Whatever you try and do, if there are just don't second guess. That's my first advice. Keep an open mind. Don't second guess. You do all the questions that you can do, and then just leave the section. Right? A few things that I want to figure out in terms of what he said in terms of demanding and multiple abilities. My only guess would be inference that I'm going to make, obviously with a lot of assumptions, is the fact that you will find a good mix of questions in verbal RC. And in terms of making DLR difficult, the way in which somebody can do is to create these research and development questions, by which I mean questions that are not familiar. You'll have to do you'll have to think on the field at that point in time. So that's the way in which somebody can create difficult questions with respect to DLR. But irrespective of whatever, I think what GP was saying in terms of it doesn't matter what is a difficult level, you just handle it and ensure that you solve all the questions that you know, right? And what we'll do is we'll now focus on each section in terms of what we need to do. And like we were saying, think of CAT as 3 separate tests. You have a verbal test for 1 hour, a DLR test for 1 hour, and QF test for 1 hour. We'll start off with the verbal set. This is what we are thinking is a likely scenario that is going to happen in CAT. Difficulty level will be slightly higher than CAT 2015. Those of you who have taken CAT 2015 have seen CAT 2015 paper. I'm sure that you could have seen the paper in the publication, GK publication. There is a CAT 2015 paper, the GK publication by Career Launcher. You've seen the difficulty level of the paper of CAT 2015 was quite easy, so it will be slightly higher. We can look at two scenarios. If there are 34 questions, you will see 5 RCs plus 10 verbal questions. That will be like CAT 2015. If you're looking at 44 questions, then probably 5 RCs and 20 verbal questions. Obviously, there could be another additional scenarios. What is likely going to happen is a good mix of non-verbal questions, grammar, word usage, and verbal logic, right?
Yeah, Gijo, if I can just interfere. Yeah, the key thing to remember is last year the paper was biased towards reading comprehension and hardly any bit of verbal logic was tested. That is also because 4 of the questions out of the verbal logic questions were prior jumbles without choices, which almost everyone struggled with. So they were not any kind of differentiator. So effectively verbal logic got reduced to 6 questions. So if they have to check you out on all areas, they will have to either reduce RC or increase verbal logic. And by verbal logic, it is likely to be more towards the vocabulary, fill in the blanks, sentence correction kind of questions. Even deductive logic could happen. So what we feel is that there is a good chance that the number of questions will increase from 34, they could go to 40, 44, even 50. But approximately 10 to 12 questions more are likely in this particular area. Yeah, Gijo, over to you.
Yeah, so if we keep the paper slightly higher than last year, if there are 34 questions, a 95% score will be about 30. That is essentially getting about 20 questions correct. Now, if you have more questions, obviously the score will be higher in terms of proportion. It will go to 30. I think this is about 37% more questions. So obviously 37% more marks will reach about 80. But for those of you struggling with verbal, your key thing would be to look at, can I get close to about 50 marks? That is to get net 15 to 17 questions correct. Those of you has got this area sorted out, and then you have to obviously maximize the score. And especially when it comes to 44 into 3, how much is that? I don't know. 4 3s are 12, 4 3s are 12,
132.
Sorry. 132 questions. And if somebody is really good at it, you can actually think of even knocking off 100 questions straight away from this.
Yeah.
And in 32, Obviously there is less number of questions, but the cutoff would be, I think, would remain close to about 50 questions.
In fact, this kind of a section will be a great advantage to those of you who are good in this particular section, because it will help you get into a high zone. It will help you get a high percentile. So anyone good in verbal RC and who can out of 44 get a good score of, let's say, about 41 out of 130, you get a 100 odd score. The overall percentile will then be a function of what you have scored in verbal RC. For example, last year also, if you look at it, with a low score in DI/LR, you could get a high percentile. But for your overall percentile, you're dependent on verbal as well as quant. This will become even more important this year if the number of questions goes up to 44. Then your overall percentile will essentially be a function of the score you have in verbal.
Right.
Yeah,
So that finally boils down to figuring out. So this is how I think me and GP looks at the paper, and I'm sure that you have figured out what you have to do with verbal. I go with the 10 40 10 principle. First 10 for verbal, and next 40 for RC, and next the last 10 for verbal. And first of all, the first thing obviously is to hit the question wave button. I don't know how many of you actually you want to be a manager, and this is actually testing ability to be a manager. So a good sense is to plan, and you'll get quickly get an idea of the composition. What you want to figure out, I think, number one is the number of RCs, and the number of round one verbal questions that you want to solve, and number of round two verbal questions. And if I were to look at my take in terms of what my round one verbal questions are, essentially grammar, word usage, and summary based questions, the things that I know that I can quickly handle it. And the round two are, I'm not too sure, I have to put in a lot of word, probably para jumbles and odd sentence. At the end of the day, all you have to get is marks. The question does not matter. So you kind of quickly finish off all the verbal and then hit RC. So obviously if there are 5 RC questions, you can adopt either 2 strategies. One strategy is to solve all questions, all RCs, not all questions for that matter. Strategy 2 would be to select 4 RC passages to solve. So you must always understand that RC to me is an open book. The passage is given, no prior knowledge is required whatsoever. Everything is there in that particular passage, and all the answer that you have is right there. Grammar, you need external knowledge. Word usage, you need external knowledge. But RC, if you can handle this 40 minutes of RC, I think you would have handled verbal section. What my take is, my sense always has been that let's look at 2 scenarios, 34 questions and 44 questions. And if you want to look at those who are struggling with verbal, and you want to look at close to about 50 marks for 34 questions in verbal and 60 marks, what you want to look at is about 15 marks from verbal. About this I've taken about, let's assume that there are 10 questions here, and there are 30 marks. 15 is about 5 questions. You get about 50% correct. I think 50% accuracy in verbal is what is achievable. And you look at that, then at the end of the day, here if you get 50% accuracy, then you'll get about 25 marks. And what you'll have to figure out is what to do with RC. And I'm sure that you already have done enough to handle RC. If you want to look at, let's say, 35 marks in RC, and if you want to look at 100%, if you're someone who has got 100% accuracy, then all you require is 12 questions. And if you're someone with 65% accuracy, then you need to attempt 23 questions. What is fair to assume is that you'll probably hit about 70-75% accuracy. Then we're looking at about 18 attempts out of the 24 questions. And that I believe can be achieved either by attempting 3 passages, which assuming 6 questions, but then you are forced to attempt all the questions, 4 passages with 85% attempt, and 5 passages with 75% attempt. What I always try and do is this, and try and attempt as many questions as possible. I'm sure that each one of you has your own strategy. But what this helps me is, since at the end of the day, I'm again telling you, RC is what verbal section is. That's where you can be sure of your marks, and you must have an attitude which says that I'm going to handle this RC really well.
Jijo, just to add, just
Yeah.
if you could just go to the previous slide.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. For me, it is always n-1 passages. I will normally not worry about attempting all 5 passages. I will worry about doing 4 passages with high level of accuracy. And I will back myself in the verbal logic portion to compensate for the loss of 1 passage of RC. So there are 2 different strategies which you can see, and I'm sure if you look at yourself, you might have a 3rd strategy or a 4th strategy. The important thing is to work with a strategy which you are comfortable with and which works for you. Don't follow any of us just because we are saying it. You have to do exactly what works for you. Okay? Yeah, Jijo, over to you.
Yeah. Right. That's where I think me and GP differs in terms of how we look at RCs. I always believe this read all RCs. At least start with the attitude. I think that is important to start with the attitude, especially what happened in CAT 2015. You can actually find the RCs handleable. It was not difficult to read. Start with the attitude that you want to read all RCs. Eventually, you do 4 RCs out of 5. It is fine. But in your head that you must start with attitude to read all RC. And I always think that when you have an attitude of reading all RCs, then you can kind of, what do you say, it is possible that you can leave questions, right? Then you only have to attempt 3/4 of the questions to get about 18 question attempt. If you look at all the 4 RCs, all the 5 RCs, and you're going to attempt 3/4 in each RCs, then you can hit 18 attempts. Other choice obviously is to get this 18 as 6 into 3 or whatever. What this helps me is I don't have to resolve whenever I have a confusion. So the biggest issue that is going to happen in terms of time waste is when you have to sit and resolve confusion. So you make up your mind in terms of what works for you. I'm just telling you what works for me. I always one more thing I want to say is in terms of read instruction, especially in the verbal questions. Grammar, is he asking incorrect questions or correct questions? Usage question, incorrect usage or correct usage? And even let's say odd man in the odd sentence in a sequence, is he asking you to pick up the odd sentence or is asking you to rearrange other ones? You have to read the instruction. Please don't make silly mistakes, at least in this. Let me quickly take one question here. Vivek has asked this question: if someone is not good at grammar and vocab at all, how to approach a paper with a higher number of these questions? Vivek, irrespective whether you're good at grammar or good at vocab, not good, not great, I think what is achievable is about 50% of the questions. Let's assume that there are 44 questions and you have, let's say, 24 questions of RC and 20 questions of verbal. What is quite possible is to knock off about at least 8 to 10 questions. You can easily get about 24 to 30 marks from here. And it finally boils down to how you handle the RC. Right. So if you're really weak, not really great in grammar and vocab, and then think of, at least in your head, try and look at whether it is possible to actually handle all the RCs. There is one more question here. Okay, GP, can you?
Yeah, Jijo.
Yeah, sure. Your mic is yours. Your take on.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think I've said this a number of times that for me the question paper button becomes extremely important. It helps me go through the passages. It helps me choose the passage to attempt, and I find reading on that platform much more easier if it is on the question paper button. Okay. By and large, to me, the paper will also start with the non-MCQs. Someone had a question. If I have to, if there was a question. Let me just see if I can phrase the question here.
The question is it advisable to guesswork on non-MCQ? That's one question.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Non-MCQs are no negative marking. So my approach for non-MCQs is extremely simple. I'll read the question. If I know how to solve it, I'll mark the answer. If I don't know how to solve it, I'll still mark something and move on. I don't want to come back to it again, because if I don't know the answer, coming back to it again is not going to be of any help. For example, in a grammar question, in a vocabulary question, either I know the answer or I don't. And if I don't, there's no point wasting my time on it. But if it's a question of, let's say, parajumble without choices, I will come to it only in the end because I know that is my weak spot and I don't have a high accuracy. Okay. So I would typically look at, as I said a little while ago, start with an assumption that I'll do n minus 1 RC passages. If I have time, I might do all 5. But unlike Jijo, who starts by saying I'll do all RC, I start by saying I'll do n minus 1. If I had time, I'll do the nth one also. Okay. And for me, the comfort level with the passage is extremely important. I don't worry about the length of the passage, too much about the length of the passage, nor do I worry too much about the kind of questions which are there. Okay. But yes, whatever RC passage I pick up, I want to read it carefully, I want to understand it, and then I move on to the question. I will usually not look at the question. In the end, if I have time and I have a passage left or a couple of passages left, I will go through the questions first and then say, okay, which are the factual questions among these passages, and answer only those questions. Okay. The point which is written on the right hand side by Jijo, read instruction, extremely important, especially when it comes to grammar, because sentence correction, grammar, vocabulary, and the instruction can change. In grammar or sentence correction, at times they'll ask you to find the correct statement, at times they'll ask you to find the incorrect statement. So if you are not careful with the instruction, you will solve the question correctly but mark the incorrect answer. Okay. Yeah, over to you, Jijo.
Yeah. So yeah. So actually, in terms of each questions, read instruction each question. Every single grammar question, read instruction. One may ask you to find out incorrect. Other may ask you to find correct. Right. So there's no point trying to solve a question when you have absolutely no clue what you're trying to do. Right. So that's something that you want to do. I also would like to here say is so one question is asking. Can we expect negative marking for non-MCQ? I am has been very clear. There is no negative marking for non-MCQ. Two things I like to say in terms of if I was IIM Bangalore, and if I look at the CAT 2015 paper, para jumble with 5 statements and wanting to try and rearrange is a useless question because none of us get it right. Okay, so either
you have to be extremely fortunate to get it right.
Hamal, you figure out 1, 3, 4, 5, and you have to figure out where the hell will I put 2. That itself gives me 5 choices. So I think 2 likely things going to happen. Either is going to come with choices or is going to be 4 sentences, and that is what probably I'll do.
And just to add to what Jijo you said, except for parajumble without choices, all the others were MCQs essentially. Odd statement was an MCQ because we had to identify which of those 4 or 5 statements did not fit in. The summary question, again, they have to give you 4 choices for you to write down which of them is an MCQ. So they are actually MCQs which have no negative marking rather than non-MCQs. In as far as verbal logic goes, the only non-MCQ is the parajumble without choices. Yeah,
and there is one more thing that is said. What happens sometimes in RC is you have people taking the test, and there'll be the person sitting next to you who is actually reading the passage loud, and you don't want to get disturbed. I don't know what is. I think it's an interesting question Abhay asked. Can we actually carry earbuds for the CAT? And if I am going to get confused, I will definitely carry earbuds and just ensure that you don't shout it out. CAT has not given an instruction. They said that don't wear shoes, don't wear socks. I don't think ever they said that don't wear earbuds.
Some amount of cotton can be carried, I believe.
I'm sure, and I think this is very, very interesting. I think may really help actually. And if someone sits there and keeps shouting, and all you want to do is
there's a question. Let me just take that up. Nimit has asked, in verbal VRC there are questions like choose the wrong sentence and the options are B, B, A, B, 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 and we are asked to type in the option. Are these considered MCQs or non-MCQs? Nimit, all questions where you have to type in the answer can be considered as non-MCQs, or they can be considered questions which don't have negative marking. Questions which have negative marking, you have a radio button. Where you type in the answer, there's no negative marking. Okay. Yeah, Jijo, over to you.
Right. So somebody said, will the level of CAT 2016 somewhat same as Mock 23? I have taken Mock 23, and in fact, I want to discuss about Mock 23. It actually gave me a challenge to solve 44 questions, and I started by saying that can I actually solve all? There were 6 RCs, and it was bloody challenging. And the only way I could actually, because I have started with the attitude that I'm going to read all RC. There were 2 factual passages, and I looked at the questions first and then handled the RCs, right? So, so. So level of difficulty of CAT 2000, sorry, mock 23, I believe in terms of verbal would probably be very similar to what can be expected in terms of what CAT 2016. The kind of passages, kind of questions in verbal. To me, it kind of gave me a sense that that is probably it. That will be the kind of paper in terms of level of difficulty. I'm not saying not total number of questions, but in terms of LOD. What you can also expect is the RCs, since he said you want to be test has to be demanding and all those things, you will get in all probability whichever RC will be in 5 different subjects. Okay, it happened in 2004. You look at 2008 paper. IIM Bangalore has always given RC passages 5 in 5 different subjects. So I'm sure that even if you're looking at the strategy that GP was saying or the one that I'm saying, you should be easily able to handle. It's not going to be possible that you don't know 5 different subjects. Okay, so I'm sure that you'll be able to handle. Yeah. So, and I think let's go to the crazy section called DLR. Our take is obviously the fact that it's going to be similar to CAT 2015. There are going to be 2 scenarios. It is 32 questions, then it will be like 4 DI, 4 LR. There are 28 questions, then obviously 7 sets. It could be DI, I don't know how many DI, how many LR will be given, no demarcation. What we also believe is that it will be good mix of questions covering all types. You will not get 2 arrangement questions. You'll get multiple. You look at 2004 paper and 2008 paper. You see what we are saying, what CAT has created, and a 95 percentile is about 40 marks, and clear the cutoff 3 sets. 3 sets, actually 30 marks. There'll be 2.5 sets. So 3 sets is very well. And I think both me and GP will start with this first DI, then LR.
Absolutely. One of the few things we agree on.
Yeah, at least we disagree on what happens with verbal. At least there is no agreement. First thing first, however great you are, however awesome you are, this has to happen. Without this, you're not solving the LR. You have to hit the question paper button. You have to spend 3-4 minutes, and you have to decide on what is the 4 set that you want to handle. And if you have 4 minutes, you can actually read all the sets and then figure out which is the 4 that you want to handle. I think even if you spend about 5 minutes doing this, I don't see any issue, because in which case you would see the 10 minutes anyway goes in panic. Okay, if you take additional 1 or 2 minutes to ensure that in the beginning, you must ensure that you decide on the 4 sets. GP?
Yeah, just to one small thing. If there was a Gautam Bawa here, he would have said, "I'll start with LR." He would first finish 3 sets of LR and then he will worry about DI. But Jijo, if you could just go to the previous slide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Now one of the things which you need to remember is many students might be worried that if the number of sets or number of questions of DILR come down from 32 to 28, how will it impact you? Frankly, it won't impact you at all. In fact, it will be favorable for you to have fewer sets, because that allows you to focus on fewer. You see, the biggest problem that we face in DILR is you have to choose the sets, and greater the number of sets you have, greater the confusion, because unlike quant and a verbal logic question on which you can look and say whether you can do it or not, DILR, the sets have to be spent, you have to spend time on the sets and then do it. If you look at the numbers, 3 to 4 sets was very good attempt. So as long as you have something like 6 sets of data which allows you to ignore 2 sets or attempt 4 sets, it does not matter whether you have 6 sets or 7 sets or 8 sets or 10 sets. So I would believe anything up to 6 sets is fine. More than 6 sets will start creating confusion. And while we have listed 2 possible scenarios, remember CAT 2004 also had 35 questions. So don't be surprised if the number of questions per set also change. It could even be 7 sets with 5 questions each. Okay. So all those permutation combinations are possible. Larger number of questions in every set is favorable, because for the amount of data I will be able to attempt 1 extra question.
Right.
So don't be too worried if the number of sets as long as you have 6 sets of data, is good enough for us. Okay.
Yeah, finally,
In terms of
we'll do
attempting the
about
paper, as you so as far as attempting the something like 7 to 8 minutes, all 8 minutes. I 3 sets in DI, I will target doing 2 more sets in LR. If I have done 2 sets in DI, I will look at maybe 2 sets in LR, and after that I'll decide whether the 5th set has to be DI or LR. Okay, so
I
that's the
think there
broad
was
approach I will look at. Yeah, Jija, over to you.
GP. I think there was a slight problem with the audio. So can you just repeat what he said? I think there was a
Okay,
problem.
from where do I start?
I think you can start with respect to how you look at DLR, GP.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
so I can push this in. So to me, just to quickly say what I would have done is round 1 question I will do DR, but direct questions. I have taken I think about 4 mocks live. There were some mocks that I have only done LR and not done any DI questions. When I say direct questions, this is like there are a lot of data, but I can keep solving each questions. And there are some DI questions which you have to actually figure out the story and then answer. I will consider is like an LR questions. Direct questions, familiar LRs, and then R&D stuff. Yeah, GP. Yeah.
Yeah, my approach to me is similar, but I will typically look at doing DI, and I will not go to LR without doing a 1 to 2 sets of data. And to me, the paper starts by first spending 7, 8, even up to 10 minutes going through all the 8 data sets, understanding them, and deciding which ones to attempt and which 2 sets not to attempt at all. Okay, I will typically start with 2 sets of DI. If I find it easy, I may even do 3 sets of DI and then go to LR. If I do 2 sets of DI and then 2 sets of LR, after that I'll go through the remaining sets to pick up 1 or maybe 2 sets to attempt. So that's the broad approach which I have. One thing which we need to remember is Bangalore has a tendency of breaking the barrier between LR and DI. So you'll find, for example, if you look at the CAT 2004 paper or the 2008 paper, you'll have texts which will talk about both, in which you first have to crack the logic and then calculation follows. The ADOS number question, which was CAT 2006. The Olympics question, which was, I think, CAT 2004. Okay, the cricket question with the triangle, four equilateral triangles kind of data given. All of them are questions wherein the calculation is important, but along with that, logic is also important. So don't be surprised if you find that out of 8 sets of data, there are 5 or 6 sets of data which are logic and DI combo and not clearly defined as, cannot be clearly defined as either LR or DI. Okay, Ajit, over to you.
Yeah, so basically at the end of the day, it basically looks at what is the force that you want to solve. One more thing that you want to understand with respect to DLR, the scores will jump +2 because each set would need 4 more questions. So it'll be like 0, 12, 24, 36, 48. Your percentile is going to jump like huge jump in terms of percentile. So where you want to at least hit is get close to 36, and there is going to be possibility of frustration, panic, possibility of carrying the burden to QA. The only advice that I have, and this is the advice that I want to give, is whatever is the panic, please postpone it towards the end. In your head, you say that whenever is he has said you panic at minute, okay, I'll do later, right? So you have your first step is to ensure that you clear the cutoff, have a 40 minutes, and in 40 minutes try and see can I get about knock over 30 plus score. Okay, and then you do the rest of the stuff. So you first want to clear the cutoff, and you can maximize the score in QA and verbal. It is going to be sheer luck if you can actually do 5 or 6 sets. And I would want to talk about this panic attack. If you look at mock 23 that I've taken, I think I solved about 4 sets in good 40 minutes, and the last 20 minutes was pure panic. I think I got some 3 marks, and I'm already sitting and figuring out what the hell did I do. And there is there will be panic attacks in DLR. It's just about you keeping yourself cool and handling it. And I think a few advice here. GP, you can start with your take.
Yeah,
In terms of how
just taking off from where you were talking about panic. Last year, large number of students panicked in DILR that it is difficult. What do I do? I'm not able to solve anything. They forgot that there's the same difficulty for everyone. And if it is difficult, 3, 4, whatever you can, don't worry about attempting too many. Remember, difficult paper, you will be able to handle.
GP, your voice is breaking.
And don't get. Is it fine now?
Yeah, I think it's okay now. Yeah.
Is it fine now, or should you?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine now. I think you can just repeat what you said. It's fine now, GP.
Like don't it's difficult. Don't panic. If it difficult, would the others be difficult? And hence, all you need to do is to make sure you do attempt but get them right. Okay. And also, this many at times we assume that it is difficult. Okay. Similarly, at times when you assume it to difficult, take each
GP,
set as it comes.
the voice again.
If you find it difficult, Jijo, maybe there's some problem with my net connectivity. Why don't you continue? While I check out.
So basically, what GP was saying is, let me give you a few things that is absolutely critical. So one I want to talk about is silly mistake is a crime. It's a complete crime. You decide on the 4 sets. Tell me how many of you make silly mistake in how many of you make silly mistakes in DLR? Type Y if you make silly mistakes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's a bloody crime. Okay, so your cutoff, clearing a high score, and if you did not clear a high score, you made silly mistake, that's going to be a problem. So I think that please solve neatly and don't hurry. I love this advice by GP, which says that you have 1 page for 1 set. Okay, there are unlimited number of papers. You can keep on asking. If you can keep on asking for papers for every LRDS sets, please keep 1 page. That way, if you can come back, if you have any problem, you can always come back and check where you made the mistake. So don't hurry if you've decided, and like I said, the plan to clear the cutoff in about 35 minutes. GP, you back? Yeah. So okay. So let me quickly take some questions. The sender was frugal last time. They took him extra sheets. Please, it is your right to ask for sheets. You can ask for sheet. If somebody is not giving a sheet, just whack that guy and get the sheets. Okay. Nobody can stop you from. First of all, they ask you not to wear things, and then they would not giving you sheets. You can obviously ask and get the sheets. It's going to be slightly painful. So, but it's still fine, Gayatri. You must get the sheets. There's one question I want to confirm one thing. In the final CAD, is it okay to use keyboard to scroll? No, don't. The keyboard will not work. The only thing that you have to use is a mouse anyways. All right. Viber is asking, sir, sometimes in graph question where the data point are not specifically written. Okay, sorry, I missed that question there. Okay. It's hard to differentiate the data points exactly 8,500 or 7,500. If you know that your answer depend upon exactly figuring out what the data is, it doesn't make sense to fight with it. Pick one value and solve it, or maybe move to the next set, right?
Jijo, for such a data, what you can do is use your rough sheet and put it on the screen. Make sure one edge is in line with the y-axis, and then you'll be able to make a better estimate. But even if you are able to make a good estimate and the choices are very close, it will be best to leave such a question, because whatever value you take, you are likely to get it wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I think what if you have a research and development question, which means something that you've never seen before? Two
I'll
possibilities.
leave it.
The question is actually very easy, or question is difficult. It makes sense to actually when you initially spend time, if you read it with the purpose of actually trying to solve it, if you get the sense, if your mind is thinking, okay, this I can handle, this I can handle, then you can keep towards as a backup question. But I will always want to start with something that is familiar, something that I've done. You practice a lot of DI in the last 3 to 4 months, and I think what is important is that if you find something familiar, you know you've done it before, you know you can crack it. Unfamiliar ones, in that heat and that panic, you may miss out the easy one. You may come out of the test and figure out, oh shit, that was such a simple question. But at the end of the day, what happens in the test is very different, and what happens at the home later on. A couple of more things that I want to say is, whatever happens, please don't take the burden onto QA. Okay, you would have probably solved only 20 marks questions or 25 marks questions, and then you're looking at QA, almost going to QA saying that this CAT 2017. Okay, so don't have that attitude at all. Absolutely don't have the attitude at all. And what if, like last year, everybody would assume that in DLR you want to actually score 50, 60, and 41 marks for 40 marks were actually 95 percentile. So that is one. And the second thing, at some point, any point in time, your mind goes blank. Just close your eyes, breathe, and then start again. Yeah, GP.
Yeah, you have almost covered everything. But to me, the critical part is that what you mentioned about being silly mistakes. Don't rush. Don't rush. And wherever required, don't hesitate to use a calculator. Don't rush into using a calculator also, but don't leave it just because you don't want to do it. Okay. So be judicious in using the calculator, and the what you have circled, one page for one set, extremely important. Note down your data neatly. Don't make it that use that page judiciously again, making sure that you can retrieve whatever data required, because at times you'll find the data which you have used for question number 2 is required for question number 4 also. So if you have done your work neatly, rough work neatly, you will be able to save time. Okay, yeah, Jijo, over to you.
Yeah, so I'm absolutely keeping chill is important. With respect to calculator, if you've noticed me taking the mock CATs, I would have even put 12 into 23. I would have probably used calculator. That's how bad I am. But then obviously there are a lot of questions that you can use solve without calculator. Well, then there is a calculator. I mean, why not? So another question is, will the calculator be scientific, GP? Last year, do you remember the calculator was scientific calculator or normal?
Yeah, we had a scientific calculator last year. This year we will have a simple calculator, because the mock CAT on the CAT website gives you a simple calculator.
Yeah, right.
Last
So
year it was a scientific calculator in the mock CAT website also.
Okay, in terms of what I am actually told. What about our TCS mock that we conducted, GP? Was that
simple calculator?
Okay, all right, great. So there you go with just with the calculator. In terms of QA, similar to CAT 2015. Last year there were about 10, I think 11 non-MCQ question, if I'm not mistaken. Whenever you have to non-MCQ question, you have to type in answer, and obviously you cannot type pi. 2 pi cannot be typed in. So most of the question, if there are a lot of non-MCQ question, you will find a lot of arithmetic questions in. You actually type in the value, right? So or maybe in algebra, number of solutions possible. So that's
the answers are typically integrals. The integer numbers are the answers.
Integer numbers answers. So you will actually find in the CAT arithmetic questions has got less weightage till about 2008 every year, and then post that, I think suddenly in 2015 you found a good number of arithmetic questions that also happened with respect to MCQ question. But we believe that there will be likely good mix of questions covering all areas, and a 95% will be about 50 marks and 35 marks for 12 questions. Right. Decimals, I think decimals were not there, no, in terms of typing questions
no,
last year.
all integers.
all integers, right? So unless until something changes this year. When it talks about QA, let me talk to you guys. There are some of you who will feel maths is like this, and some of you would love maths. For those of you who feel maths is like this is my advice. Okay, advice is imagine a timer moving from 60 to 0. Your job is in the first 15 minutes, can I actually solve 7 questions? The biggest issue that happens in the CAT is somebody gave you 34 questions or how many questions. I don't even see the last few questions because I'm in, something happened in one question. Imagine in the first 15 minutes you spend 5 minutes for about 2 questions. You eat in 10 minutes, and there are so many questions available to you. There are a lot of questions available to you. Your first step is imagine the CAT will get over in 30 minutes. It's a 30 minutes paper. Whatever happens the last the 30 minutes of time pass, especially those of you who are weak in maths. What you don't want to do is do this in the beginning. You start you normally what happens we will start like this. In the first 15 minutes, solve 2 questions, and in about 30 minutes we have solved about 5 questions. Then panic happens, and we make a lot of mistakes. We keep saying that you have to take it in rounds. All that it means is pick the ones that you can solve. This probably would be about round 1. This probably will be round 2 and round 3. And someone who is actually good in maths can actually knock off quite a few questions in the first 15 minutes, and maybe get maximum number of marks in 30 minutes. You have to hunt for your question and solve, and don't get stuck at all. GP, your thoughts?
Yeah. No, no. Essentially, what you said, I will go with that. The only difference would be I don't have a time limit for myself, but I don't want to attempt any question which is difficult or time consuming. So if you have seen me taking the mock CAT, the recorded the sessions, the recordings which are there, you will find that I will at times just leave a question because it's a 6-line question. I don't want to read it because it is time consuming. I leave a question just because the calculation looks difficult. Okay, in a, for example, in a DI set, I will do 2 questions, leave 2 questions because they are high in terms of calculation and I'll waste a lot of time. So for me, any excuse to leave a question is good enough. Or in other words, I want to be 110% sure that the question that I'm attempting, I will not only get it right, I'll do it very fast. And which is what will allow me to go to the last question within maybe 35 to 40 minutes. Second thing, while I've just said 35 to 40 minutes, if it is a very easy paper, my round 1 will go up to maybe 50 minutes also. But I would have done maybe then 25 questions out of them. And if it is a difficult paper, my round 1 will get over in, let's say, 20 minutes, but I would have done maybe about 7-8 questions only. So to me, the key thing is what someone had asked for, or what Jijo also said, R&D question, experimental question, nothing. No experimentation to be done, no research and development required. I know the question, I know I can do it within couple of minutes, I'll do it. If I have slightest bit of doubt about my ability to mark the answer, I will leave it. In fact, you will find many and most of the questions which I don't do in round 1 in quant are the question which says how many solutions are there. I typically leave them because I have a tendency of missing out on solutions if I move fast. Similarly, many times I don't do the non-MCQs because with the choices make my task easier. Without choices, I take a large amount of time. So many a time the non-MCQ become round 2 questions. So these are the benchmarks which I have created for myself. Similarly, you need to be clear what are those question types which you will do. As an indicator, from your point of view, the timeline which Jijo has given in terms of 15 minutes do so many, next 15 do so many is a good starting point. Yeah, over to you, Jijo.
Basically, what I'm saying, this is not in terms of a strict guidelines, more in terms of look it like an attitude that you need to have.
Absolutely.
Attitude that I need to have. I'm not saying that suggesting that you 15 minutes में 7 होना ही चाहिए कि 30 minutes में होना ही चाहिए. All that I'm saying, attitude is that I have to hit as many questions as possible in the first 30 minutes. If I keep that attitude, I'll not get stuck. The typical attitude that all of us have is, so the first is we obviously hit the familiar questions, but you also understand the familiar questions need to be easy to attempt. The familiar question is difficult. For example, let's say I am very good at percentage. Percentage is my great friend. I keep cracking it, but there can be a question percentage which can be difficult. And if you get the sense, you must leave it in the round one. Right, the familiar pretty easy. That's what you want to attack. And I also believe that don't leave a question without reading it. However difficult it looks, crazy it looks. Just read it. If you can understand, fine. If you don't understand, leave it. But don't leave a question without leaving it. And then the last advice that I have with respect to QA is don't give up. If your earlier section, please read this as DLR. Did not go as planned. Keep fighting. Don't take. Again, I'm saying, at the end of the day, this is always happening in CAT. Your DLR. What happens in verbal is you can keep attempting. You'll only figure out whether the answer is right or wrong after the test. But you will see a lot of green colors on the right hand side on the screen because I attempted quite a few questions. But in DLR, suddenly it's all red or whatever, all blank or red, and that mentally kind of sometimes screws you. But that is what you must just handle that. Whatever happens, you have attended only 3 questions. Doesn't matter. Just assume the 3 questions is enough to clear the cutoff, right? And then move on to the next section queue and handle it. That's my advice. Yeah, GP.
Yeah, so I'll just like to highlight on the second point. Don't get stuck to a question. Don't fall in love. Don't waste your time on it. You can solve it, do it. Can't solve it, just forget about it, move on. It's important to keep moving on. Otherwise, as you rightly pointed out a little while ago, you will find that you have not even seen what the last 10 questions are. It should never happen that you have not seen questions. You can see a question, leave a question, not an issue at all. But you have not seen the question, to me is criminal in quant. Yeah, Gio, over to you.
Right. So there's a question. Is it the same to? Okay, there are quite a few questions. I think we'll pick these questions almost at the end.
Yeah, we can take the question in the end.
So we'll quickly a few things with respect to D-Day. I think you mentioned 3 things: handling shocks, being yourself, and staying positive. One thing is in terms of handling shock. Please understand there can be 2 kinds of surprise. One surprise is surprise for everyone in terms of very tough questions or not as per sample paper. It's just about everybody is facing the same problem. Whoever keeps calm will win. And there can be some surprise which is specific to you. Assuming that let's say you are weak in geometry and you see too many questions in geometry, or your scoring area missing. It is unfair, but don't give up. Focus on doing your best. The basic point is if you might have come with certain expectation in terms of what the paper is. The paper does not suit your expectation. Just don't sit and cry about it, right? All you have to do is okay. This is like playing cricket. In cricket, you expected that this particular ground people normally score 300 runs, and then you start playing it. You are not able to score. You just cannot hit every ball for a 6. What is best is to make the best out of the 50 overs that you have. Put a good score, and then just hope that is enough for you to do well in the test, right? So just handle like cricket, I believe. Yeah, GP.
Yeah, Gio, just want to add to this part about your worst fear. Not good in geometry and you find too many geometry questions. Don't worry, easy to leave them. So if out of the let's say 30 questions of quant, there are 10 questions of geometry or 12 questions of geometry. You know, then you have to focus on the remaining 18. Okay, so it becomes easier for me to leave questions if I find questions which are not to my liking. If there are too many, I know my task is very clearly cut out. Focus on the remaining 18, and that also means I can spend more time on those questions and get almost all of them right. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, so I think D-Day, so small things, but I'm just saying, please wake up early, sleep early. You have to do RC, then you have to do DLR, and then you have to do verbal. I'm sure that many of you are working, and then you're slogged, and you're used to staying late. I am used to staying late, right? A night classes happens in the night, by the way, but at least in the last 3-4 days, please be your best, right? It's like being Usain Bolt. Okay, he just have to run, but then he prepares himself for the test. Small things: have a balanced breakfast, wear comfortable clothes, and before leaving home, check you have everything you need. It goes for every single test. In the CAT, at least there are only 2 things that you need to carry, and you don't have to go there and worry about mobile phone kahan pe rakhna hai. Okay, mobile phone is not allowed. If somebody is not there, just don't carry stuff. and nothing is allowed, and you don't want to sit, and you kept the mobile outside, and you are taking the test, and you are sitting and worried, what if somebody takes my mobile phone, and and take the bare minimum stuff in the pocket. Also, fifth one, stupid advice, but I'm saying that go to the toilet before the exam starts. You're not allowed to leave the room, right? And hit the question paper button. We have already mentioned it. And more, very important, if your brain freezes, sometimes in RC your brain freezes. You keep reading, suddenly blank. Second passage, you don't know what happened. You read about 3-4 sentences, you almost say, I have not got anything in my head, and you're almost wondering, should I go back and read or should I continue? So close your eyes for about a couple of seconds, and then breathe, and then read again. Okay, and enjoy the 3 hours. For all those of you who have seen me taking the mock, I enjoy my 3 hours. You also enjoy the 3 hours. Yeah, GP, anything you want to add here? Hmm?
No, I think that covers almost everything. Yeah, covered it.
Yeah, I think right. So D-Day, staying positive, stay away from those who are panicking. You don't want to sit next to people who are sitting and cribbing and about stuff. Just keep away from panicking. Tell yourself it's just a test. And if at the end of the day, the attitude you should be that if you're not going to make it, it's not your loss, it is IIM's loss. And you have to act as though you're the only person. Nobody else matters, nothing else matters. All that matters is you on your screen. And do remember all the good things during a prep. It always happens. It happens for many. They keep remembering all the bad things. We only keep remembering the test that didn't go well, the question that you cannot solve. You keep worrying about, oh shit, I remember all the geometry formula. But please understand that you've done a lot of stuff, a lot of things that you remember, and at the end of the day, never ever give up. Right. So that's one attitude. And what to do in the next 5 days? I think the only thing that you need to do the next 5 days, please chill. Anything they have to do in the next 5 days, GP? All right. Huh? Oh, nothing. See, GP is also saying, without saying anything, that nothing needs to be done. At the end of the day,
As usual, there's some audio issues at the end, so
yeah, sure, yeah, GP.
yeah, yeah, that's fine. I think that's essentially it. Relax. Make sure you don't pressurize yourself, and yeah, that's essentially it. And we can take the
There's a problem at GP's end. If there's anything that you want to fine tune, I think a few things that you could do is, let's say you're facing problem in each of the section, have a plan. If it is QA, take a few tests just for 30 minutes, section tests, and see how many questions that you can knock off in 30 minutes. Same is the case with DLR. And if it's a verbal, maybe a few RCs. And beyond that, I don't think anything much needs to be done, right? And we'll pick questions till the time GP joins in. I can pick questions. Let me just pick a few questions. You can type in anywhere. Let me just keep picking. What is a good attempt distribution if you want to maximize the score in quant? If you want to maximize the score in quant, out of the 34 questions, try and attempt very close to 30. Right? You want to, which is quite possible, at least in CAT 2015. It's pretty possible. Should we take a mock these 5 days? I really don't think you should, but if you can probably take a couple of mocks just to keep in touch, right? So maybe the last few mocks. What is the approximate score for 99 percentile? You want to get very close to, if it is very close to about 190ish, if you want to be a 99 percentile, which means in this 190 you probably will expect about 40 questions from DLR, and then you're looking at getting about 150 from the rest, which means one of the section, either QA or verbal, has to rock. So you're looking at something close to 90 in some of the section. That's how you can start hitting 90, and if DLR happens to be great, then it's fine. Score of 117, mock 22. That's good. That's good. Somebody asked me which movie to see. I think the good movie to see is Complete Time Pass. Maybe some that you can see some movie of probably Salman Khan, I think. All right, so there are questions. People are shooting. Okay, let me try and pick anything. What is the instinct that you tell about this year's CAT? My instinct is this. My personal instinct, 44 verbal, and then my instinct is more or less same difficulty level as last year. Nothing need to change. It's just that a few minor changes in terms of number of questions, nothing much. 34 to 44, and apart from that, there is going to be not much changes. Okay. So what is a good score? How much correct expected CAT percentile given? How much correct is CAT percentile? You can probably look at about plus or minus 0.5 ish. The percentile is more or less accurate. The predicted percentile, you mean? Yeah. Okay. Suhas is asking if you're down to 2 options, what should you do? And I'm assuming that the 2 options happen with verbal. If you're down with 2 options, it depends. If you want to take risk, if you are someone who's gambling, then you have to ensure that for the probability to really work, your sample space has to be high, and you obviously take a lot of risk in a lot of questions. And then you are someone who are attempting all questions. You're attempting all questions, and if you boil down to a couple of options, then probably yes. Otherwise, you can not take the risk. What else? I have my college exam on 3rd November. How should my approach for the next few days be? Nothing much. Yash, you have already done what you have done for the CAT. CAT at the end of the aptitude test, you've done enough. Just go and take the test. Don't worry too much. Sir, 95 percentile, 95 percentile, 95 percentile. Each section boiled down to, I think, let me go to that site which talks about difficult level. And in last year, 95 percentile, 95 percentile, 95 percentile boils down to how much? 72 plus 50 is what? 122 plus 43 is 165. That boils down to close to about 98 percentile. If you get hit 95 percentile in each of the 3 sections, probably he'll hit close to about this. If you want to start hitting 99 percentile, one of the section has to rock. It is unlikely that DLR is going to rock, but at least other section has to rock. Sir, attended RC first always. If somebody Sonal is saying that I attempt RC first always. If 44 question paper, yeah. If you start with RC, you can continue with it. Don't change your strategy at all. Just continue what you're doing. The only thing that you have to do is ensure that you actually have a look at the paper first in terms of hit the question paper, and just that your planned strategy will work for the paper that is given to you. And if you want, you can take minor tweaking as well. Jolene, why are you freaking out? Chill out, right? You've done a lot of effort, Jolene. Huh? Percentile for the top 3 IIMs, and if it is IIM A, IIM Bangalore, and then you so IIM Calcutta, then you want to hit the score which is close to about 99.5 percentile plus. IIM Bangalore, IIM Bangalore gives a lot of weightage for profile as well. So people with even 95% will have got calls. LIK. So if you start getting calls from at least in IIM, if you start hitting a score of 95 percentile plus, even LIK you start hitting calls. FMS is about 98.5 percentile. That is what you need to get in FMS, which means 98.5 you have to at least about hit a score of 170 to start hitting FMS. Sir, yeah. Okay, no questions. Question here. In question, okay, Maya is asking. In question, which sometimes requires hunting in verbal. How do you identify? If you have to hunt an answer, if there is an RC passage and there is a question given, I know that there are 4 options I have to hunt. If I know where to hunt, then I'll attack it. If I have no clue where to hunt from the passage, I'll probably leave the question. Please remember that I can afford to leave a question because I start with the attitude that I'm going to look at all RCs. So if you don't solve all RC. If you selected few RCs to solve, then you have no choice but to hunt for the questions, right? Sir, in DLR we focus on 4 sets only. Maybe take 10-12 more minutes per set and get all right and forget about the rest and score. Yeah, sure, Rohit. I'm saying that in the beginning, when you start reading in the beginning in DLR section, when you're given in the beginning, when you go through each of the sects, you will get a sense of how difficult or easy it is. When I say how difficult easy is for you, if you find all the questions easy, then obviously you can keep solving. But whatever happens, the problem is in DLR, each set will take about 8 to 10 minutes. So whatever happens in about 60 minutes, at best you can do about 6 sets. So 4 will always be good enough. 4 will be awesome. There's no problem. Even if the set is very easy, very difficult, doesn't matter. Please understand that it takes time. So even if it's all the sets are easy, you still need to give about 8 minutes per set. So the percentile will not change. 4 sets in DLR would be good enough. Okay. Sandeep, other questions are after choosing sets. In case if you are not able to solve the chosen set, how long will it take the first attempt should we move on? It's all about a gut feel. If you start solving a set and somewhere you miss something, you're not able to figure out, just move to the next set. Like what GP said is that if you have written everything in one paper, one page, everything, and then when you come back, you can refer to that particular page. You'll remember every time this happens that the first times you not be able to handle it. Second time when you come back, you probably will be able to hit it. Somebody asking is okay. Sudesh is saying, I've never been a topper. Is there a way to get 100%? Of course, there's the way to get 100%. Sudarshan, calm. It all depends upon how you knock off this section. You need to get close to about 70, this much, about 5 to 6 sets to get 100 percentile. Let that not be your target. You can go to IIM without being 100 percentiler, right? So first is to clear cutoff always. QLR first target clear cutoff, and next target that has to happen in the first 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and the next happens in terms of maximizing your score. So if you have someone is scoring less than 100 marks in the test, please remember that in the mocks this would be probably a -5 or -10. In each of the mock, probably about -10 score, because the mocks are designed to be difficult. If you're not even hitting about 85 percentile, the way in which please always understand that at the end of the day, that if there are 100 questions, all we need to get about 110 marks to start getting calls is how many questions you need to solve. About 40% of the paper, that's about it. So just a question of keeping calm. I'm sure that you know 40% of the questions in the paper. Just about keeping calm, right? What to do, sir? Any idea of SC, ST, OBC cutoff? I can't. I just have recollect. I believe that for category, the cutoff for IIMs would be about this score. Okay, you need to hit about 123, 120, about 90 percentile.
Yeah, Jijo, if I can just interrupt.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, SC, my suggestion is while you can get called at 85 percentile aggregate, also your target should be 90 percentile. ST candidate, the cutoff for most of the time will be 75 to 80 percentile, so keep 80 percentile plus. In general, SC candidates 90 percentile target, 80 to 85 is they'll start getting called. ST target should be 85 percentile, but they'll start getting calls between 75 to 80 percentile. And the newest IIM, they'll get a call at about 65 to 70 also. Okay.
Yeah. So question, anxiety factor rushes in when you start solving it faster rate. How to combat? Just don't solve fast. Why do you have to solve fast? Solving question is not about solving fast, but solving easy questions first, right? So the Gayatri is asking 95, 95, 85 boils down to. There you go, 95, 95, 85. You can add all of this.
It will be about 95 only.
I'll say about 95. So what you want to hit is, it is okay if you hit 85% one of the section. One session has to actually pull you up.
In fact, I would say you need, if you have a 85 in one, you should definitely have a 99 plus in at least the one of the remaining two.
Correct. So the safest thing is probably look at this kind of thing. You want to look at about 50 in QA, 43 plus and 72 plus questions in the three sections. Anything else? Anchal is asking from commerce background to get a call from top IMs, what percentile you look at? I think most of the IMs do. Is it what?
Commerce background will be helpful in case of Ahmedabad and Lucknow. And since it is Anchal, I will assume it is a female, so she'll get gender diversity marks in Lucknow also. So in Lucknow, you will get weightage for gender as well as academic diversity. In case of Ahmedabad, you can get a call at something like a 96 percentile also. Commerce background, female, though they don't have marks for gender diversity, but for academic diversity they have, so you can get a call at 95, 96 percentile also. As far as Calcutta is concerned, Calcutta has only gender diversity, so Calcutta, the overall cutoff for girls is likely to be about 99.3 percentile, while that for the boys will be about 99.6 percentile. Okay, so others would obviously come down a little lower, but it is essentially Lucknow where you'll have the biggest advantage.
But Subhash is asking, in case of 44 questions in verbal RC, is it good to go through questions before reading the passage first? My advice is don't change anything. It doesn't matter. There are 44 questions or 34 questions. Just stick to what you're comfortable with. Okay, just stick to what you're comfortable with. Suddenly don't change anything because something has worked for you. Just because someone has given you your core. When I say obviously you can make minor changes on the periphery, but your core has to be there in terms of how you do RC. What works best for you in terms of RC? That's something that the core has to be same. The only thing is, for example, you solve about 4 RC, you don't have the time for the fifth one. You can then quickly look at the questions and then probably knock off of a few if you can. Right, so that would be my advice. Any tip for QA for next 3 days? I'm stuck with my score. So what to do in the next 3 days if you're stuck, GP?
Nothing. You just revise a lot, and that's essentially the only thing you can do. And see if you are picking up the right question or not. Most of the time when you are stuck, it is essentially because you are getting stuck with 2 or 3 questions which you should not be picking up, and you are wasting 10 to 15 minutes within them. So if that is the issue, then it becomes a question selection or question rejection issue, which you need to be working on. Otherwise, just keep on revising whatever you have done. That should by and large pull you through.
So let me put it this way: if there are 2 choices, 2 things. Either you studied for really hard for the CAT, you did not study. If you did not study for the CAT, nothing can help you. Right? If you studied hard for the CAT and yet your score is stuck, that only means that out of the CAT has given you, let's say, 34 questions, your score is stuck because largely because of the way in which you attempt the paper. My suggestion is the next few days, take 30 minutes challenge in quants. Look at 30 minutes. Look at all the mocks. For example, you can go back to the mocks, figure out which are the questions that you want to pick first. Have the attitude. Most of the time, I've seen it working. Right. I get about 90 percentile in mocks. Can I expect 99 percentile? GP mock versus actual CAT.
See, typically the CAT percentile predictor is fairly accurate, and that should tell you what is it that you are likely to get. Now, but that assumes you will perform exactly the way you have been performing in mocks. So if you can pull up your performance, or if your performance goes down on the given day, then obviously your percentile will go down. But as I said, usually a good indicator of what you are likely to get is the CAT percentile predictor, and it is usually somewhere between the most likely and the best. Okay.
So one more thing I have to say, if you look at mock percentile, to differentiate between CAT percentile predictor uses an algorithm to figure out, to map your score in terms of difficulty level of the test and to predict an actual CAT score. But your mock percentile with actual CAT percentile, mock percentile only means out of the X number of students who took the test, what is your position. So in your mock percentile about 90 percentile, chances are that you will get what? 90 percentile
95.
means you're in the top 10% of the test taken in the mock. So that will be so which means you are among the 10% of the serious people. The serious ones take the mocks. Even though mocks are available, a lot of them don't take the mocks across coaching classes. So you're the serious one taking the mocks. So 10%, 90%, you can easily look at a score which is 95, 96, 97, thereabout. Somebody saying, sir, messed up IFT with small margin, carrying its burden, how to forget it? GP?
How to forget it? You seem to be passing the difficult ones to me.
Only thing I can say is that I had a bad relationship with someone, and then I move on, put on to the new one. There is no point carrying the burden of a bad relationship of the previous one to the new one, when the new one can give you much more. So an IFT is only IFT. CAT gives you all the IMs possible. I think that at the way which you have to figure out which battle, you have to choose the battle, your own battle. IFT is over. You crying about it is not going to help you at all.
Yeah.
And then you just have to focus on the next battle.
Yeah, and the other thing what you need to remember, each of the papers that you take tests you in a different way. And maybe IFT was not your kind of a paper. IFT, the skill is the biggest or the most important skill is time management. And if you for some reason or the other you are not able to do it well, all it means is that the gone CAT is slightly different. ZAT will be again different. SNAP will be different. So all of the major papers, when you look at them, each one of them is testing you on a different level. And maybe IFT was a paper which you did not do well in because it is not your kind of paper. Maybe CAT is your kind of paper is what you need to look at and move on towards that.
Yeah, so one more thing I want to also put in terms of attitude is every mock CAT is also same. It's just another test. And you have taken a lot of, it probably gives you an indication or correlation in terms of what you can get in the CAT. But at the end of the day, it is that day, it is that CAT. Please always go with attitude is going to nail it. It doesn't matter what is your mock score has been low, it's been really fluctuating. Just keep your calm on that day and handle it. Nothing else matters, right?
Yeah, many students who have done well in mocks may not do well on CAT. And many students who have not done well in mocks may certainly do very well in CAT. Okay, so remember, history, whatever has happened so far is history. It is a new match. It's a new inning that you will be playing completely, which is not connected to whatever you have done in the past. Okay, so you go with a fresh mind. Forget IFT, forget your mocks, and just go and say, okay, I have to crack this paper. I have to do well. I have to make sure I keep doing the easy question, keep leaving the difficult one, and things will fall in place. Yeah,
there's the good question here. How can we eliminate silly mistake in DLR? Silly mistake in DLR is the crime. I'm telling you. Ek to we chose only 4 questions, and out of the 4 questions, if you solve 4, probably about 3 each, maybe 4 sets. There are 16 questions, and then we make silly mistake in 6. It is like give up. The way in which you can avoid silly mistake is you hurry. There is no need to hurry. You can actually figure out the 4 sets, think of for 40 minutes, okay, and then you read carefully, reread, and solve neatly. And I believe that that's an amazing advice that GP has given in terms of use 1 sheet of paper for every set. You will not do silly mistakes, and read the questions carefully, and probably in the last 5 minutes, instead of panicking and trying to solve some other stupid questions, maybe you can actually go back. If you actually solve 4 sets, go back and ensure that every set is correct. Maybe I would probably even do that if you're making a lot of questions. So maybe if I'm making a lot of questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 minutes, maybe last minute is to recheck if I've got everything in place. Okay, probably.
Well, one thing which can be done in the last 5 to 7 or 10 minutes, which is not sufficient to solve a set, is look at the sets which are remaining and quite possible that in the remaining sets you will get 2 or 3 questions which are direct, which will say, okay, what is the percentage change from point A to point B? Or for example, in a tournament set, a typical question is how many matches were there? Now these are typically easy questions which don't require you to understand the complete data set or to do the complete thing. So in the last 5 to 7 minutes, you could pick up 2 such questions and solve them, because that will be a simple calculation only. Yeah, Jijo.
Yeah, so let me talk about DLR panic. Okay, let's take a stick and think of what different scenarios. One is this is like 10 minutes. Let's say this is 0 and this is 10 minutes. Well, let me look at 2 scenarios. One scenario is you start solving, you start reading, and somewhere you're stuck. You don't know what to do. This is an easy one to do. If you can quickly figure out where you made mistake, then fine. Otherwise, you move to the next set. The worst that can happen is you actually spend 8 minutes. You crack the 4 answers, and then you actually check. One of the answer is not there in the option. Then you already know, oh God, I made some mess in this, and this is where the real panic happens. After spending about 7 to 8 minutes, after solving it, after cracking it, you go and then you suddenly figure out nothing is working, and that's when please always remember, whatever happened, happen. You nothing doing. You just have to move to the next set. You just have to manage. I think I can't tell you enough. It's about managing the DLR in the CAT. Just keep calm and keep solving the questions neatly, and there'll be no problem. Let me also tell you again. I'm saying this. Even the paper is really easy, because each set will take time for people to actually solve. It is not possible for majority of the students to solve more than 5 to 6 questions. So about 4 to 5 sets will be great, not questions sets. Okay. Slot 1, slot 2. Any other questions? Anything I missed? Somebody can type again if I missed any questions. Oh, this is an interesting question. Somebody asked slot 2. Will I get a feedback from slot 1 before I start?
Yes, you will.
Actually, people are going to come out before you enter, so you can obviously ask them.
We will definitely tweet the stuff, but remember, it is not going to give you any advantage as such.
Yeah, not really. I'm taking the test in the second slot. I think GP yours is the first slot, so probably GP.
Yeah, mine is the first slot.
What? Yeah, of course, Gayatri. You're saying there's no harm in asking. You must ask. At least you can, while standing in the queue in your head, you can mentally prepare. 44, 32, 32. All right, fine, great. I know what I need to do. I think GP we'll have to discuss. Tell them what we're going to do in CAT day after the test is done.
Sure.
Yeah.
Immediately, see, what we have planned is one is two webinars. One after the first slot, the second one after the second slot. The first one would be after the first slot we'll be meeting somewhere around 4:30, and the second one would be around 8 p.m. And again, we will have a score calculator where you can come and check your scores. Okay. So essentially, the idea is that you should be able to get a good idea as to where you have what you have done in the paper and what kind of score you can expect. Okay.
So in the source calculator, like we did last year, are we doing the same thing, GP?
Yes.
So what we have done actually in the last year is we actually put up the questions with answer choices and created a score calculator. It is going to be relevant because you won't have time between the CAT result to actually interview calls, which will be very less. So if you know that you're cracking the test, you can get started preparing for the CAT. I think we'll also tweet and FB messages, and obviously WhatsApp messages will be running in terms of what happened in slot 1.
Yeah.
What was the weightage of inference-based question in last year's RC?
I think there were out of 24 questions, if I remember correctly, in my slot, the morning slot, about about 20 or 18 to 20 were direct actual questions, and that is the reason why the scores went up high in the RC.
Great. Somebody asking me a very basic question in calculator: what to do with m plus, m minus, and ms? I think there's also mr in the calculator.
These are the memory buttons.
These are essentially memory buttons. So let's say you want to calculate 1 plus 2 times 3 plus 5 plus 4 into 3. You can type 1 whatever 1 into 2. So let's say memory plus adds. Okay, so let's say this is like this: 3 into 5 and 4 into 3. 1 into 2. Hit the memory button. That get 1 into 3. 1 into 2 is 2. Get it will be in the memory. So 3 into 5 gets in memory, and then you can type mr. The simple thing. Any important topics? QA. So somebody asked me, should we attend the official mock? I think it is not needed to attend the official mock. Official mock, all the questions anyway. After the past CAT mock, I don't think at the end of the test you will get the answer. Do you? I don't think so.
No, Jijo, they can attempt it if they want to. They could try out the DILR section. In your essays, the answers to the questions which are in the official mock, all 3 sections. But what you need to remember, these are essentially old CAT papers. They have randomly put a few questions from the old CAT papers, and don't assume that the actual paper will be similar level of difficulty. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Sir, the length of passage is same as in the mock. Is it possible to attempt all RCs in 40 minutes? Vaibhav, I believe yes. The length, I think, more or less would be about 3 per para. Very similar to what you get in the mock.
That's right. Last 2 years CAT papers and the mock CAT lengths are by and large similar.
I think that it's about reading and solving. My take is always this: reading always takes very close to about 4 to 5 minutes. Irrespective, you can set the timer. You just need 4 to 5 minutes. It's too much. If you read aram se, you still get 4 to 5 minutes. The time that you take is actually solving the question. If you want to solve, this first thing is to solve using memory. If you can remember stuff, then you can attack them. That saves a lot of time. Other thing that saves the time is resolving confusion. If you don't know where to look at in the passage, where to go back to the passage, you must avoid the question. If you are confused with 2 options, remember you are confused after reading the passage. Nothing can resolve it. So the best is to either guess it or move on to the next one. You just simply cannot resolve any confusion that happens in RC. And the more if you start skipping questions, my take is you'll be able to solve at least read all the questions, all the passages. Yeah. Mock DLR level of difficulty and the CAT DLR. So we can probably compare that to CAT 2015 GP. Where will it keep?
Mock of the DILR in mocks and CAT 2014 and 15 is exactly the same. There might be a couple of papers which are slightly easier, but by and large you can say that mock CATs and DILR of CAT 2014 and 15 are identical.
Right, there we go. QA important topics. I don't know what important topics are. Important topic. I don't know. All the topics are important. Normally there is always
QA.
Algebra and geometry, they always like
number system, algebra and geometry.
Favorite. I think last year there was nothing in numbers, if I remember. But typically for some reason they just like algebra and geometry. At least in the last so many years. So please tell mock 23 DLR quite similar to expectation. Yeah, mock 23 DLR I found it slightly difficult than what I saw in last year's CAT. Probably maybe because I could not solve a lot of questions. I'm feeling so. It had actually, if I remember, mock 3. There were 2 DI questions which required complete more sounded look like LR. One DI set was manageable, and one DI set was difficult or set theory. So which means one DI, and then out of the 4 sets of LR, one LR set was difficult. So I think 3 sets would still be pretty good actually in that particular mock. It was slightly difficult, I believe, than last year's paper. Yeah. Sir, in mock 23, I was able to attempt 30 questions with net 73 score, but in the rest of the mocks, my max number of attempt is 16 out of 17 with 35. Sandeep, you're asking me this question. Is this 30 questions in a section or overall? VA, okay, I got slightly. So in mock 23, I was able to attempt 30 questions out of 44. Rest 16 out of 34. And there were a lot of mocks, I believe, that in between, I believe that 16, 17, 18, 19 CAD mocks, where the VA section was genuinely very difficult, much higher than what it was in CAD. But if you're able to attempt over 30 questions with about 73 score, I believe that your score would be about 90 percentile, close to about 90 percentile, and maybe you could have looked at about 4 more questions attempt. That could be either one more RC or probably getting some more of the verbal questions correct, one of these. But I'm sure that 73% is safe. Mock 23 VRC was easy, right? Yeah, it was. When I say easy, the only thing that made the mock easy because RC was familiar once. The topic of RC is familiar. We kind of judge the paper being easy. Please remember, verbal easy only means topic is familiar. Okay. So that's about it. Just that in mock 23, a lot of topics were familiar. Previous mocks, you had a lot of philosophy and literature that you don't like. Yeah, questions were. Yeah, topics are familiar. Rohit is saying questions are factual too. Yeah, but passage can still be philosophy, and the question can still be factual. What else? Sir, in paragraph question, suppose two options start with the second sentence. Is it safe to assume the second sentence will be the first sentence? No, you can't. You can't make any assumptions in terms of with the option. In terms, okay, so you please don't fall for any of those. Okay. Anything else? GP, I think.
I think it covered almost everything.
All right.
Okay. Great. So let's close for the day. Thank you very much. And Jijo, I think there's one last slide which you could just move to.
This one, yeah.
Yeah. Just in case anyone wants to connect with both of us, our contact numbers are given here. Okay. So all the best and see you soon.
Yeah. So please go rock the CAT, and we'll see you post the CAT. A lot of other things that we need to do. There are other tests are coming up, ZAT and other things. We'll keep meeting and ensure that we'll do well in the CAT. So thank you so much for being with us. Yeah, all the best, guys.
Okay. Bye. Thank you very much.
Yeah.